Hey garden gals and guys, so in this video I've got some cleaning up for you that I did along the side of my yard and behind the garage, and also planted my vegetable garden. The wind kept knocking my camera over and then my phone decided to die on me when I was mid-plant. But I still got a nice little video for you, so stay tuned and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. New tool from Tractor Supply. By the way, these bags of mulch were on sale for $4.99 at Lidl. Hurries it. And they had tons of this left, but they had organic potting soil for Miracle Grow that I wanted to get to top off the garden with, and I wasted my time. It didn't go when they had them, so they only had 3 left today, day after Mother's Day. Go figure. I know. But anyway, so they still had plenty of mulch. So if you need mulch, they had red and black at Lidl for $4.99 or $5.99, one of those. You know, I haven't made a gardening video. I haven't made a gardening video in years. Still planting, but just haven't made videos because I felt like it was all the same stuff over and over and over again. But try to get back into it this year. Although you will notice that the garden cage is gone. Eventually, I'd like to have a studio back there, like a shed that I turn into a studio. But for right now, just grassy area, but I still have raised beds. So, but I'm hoping within the next 2 years to be on a farm. So, yeah. All right, enough of a break. task 1 all done. All right, task 2. My neighbor does not take care of his fence, so whenever it comes over my side, I always cut it down all the way to the garage. So I do this just about every other week. So task 2, I gotta get my glasses and my hedge trimmers. It's windier out here than I thought it was. So I don't know how much of any of that y'all saw, but after. So now I just gotta rake all that up, and I gotta rake all that up, and then it's on to part 3. If you do a lot of yard work, this is no big deal to you, but it makes it so much easier putting stuff into bags. So all you do is open up your bag like so, and you take your lawn and leaf chute and you put it in the bag like so, right? And then you just push this part forward, and now you have the chute, and the bag stays open, and you don't have to worry about missing the bag when you put the stuff in. Pretty cool. Got it at Home Depot. They have them in different colors. Everybody has them. Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever. So, here we go. Part 3. And I'm scared that my phone is going to fall over again. So, you're just going to see me put stuff in the bag. If I was really industrious, I would get some mulch and do that whole thing with mulch. Because I hate to use weed killer, so I would put down like landscaping fabric and do some mulch there, but I'm not that industrious. All right, second task done. On to the third. Part 3. So this I just cut down like a week ago. I need to, I have tried putting wood killer, weed killer, everything, and I hate doing that kind of stuff, but this stuff just keeps growing back, and it's hard to get because it's all twisted into this fence, which again is my neighbor's fence behind me, but he doesn't care to keep the fence line clean, so I have to come out here and do this with the hedge trimmers all the time. So here we go. almost done with this part. And then it's on to the garden. Which, now that I'm thinking of, I probably should have done that first. But you know, it is what it is. A little weed whacking, then it's grabbing up the clippings. There, I keep having to duck my head down, didn't realize I didn't have the final step on the tripod raised. So, menopause has put on a lot of weight on my body that I have tried very unsuccessfully to get off with keto and exercise and everything, and makes it hard for me to do this stuff the way I used to nonstop. But here we are, trying to keep this body moving. Doing this always freaks me out. I'm gonna tell you why. Because we have a big black, what they call a rat snake, that comes through here every year. And he eats all the birds out of the bird houses and my neighbor's house next door. That's why I keep this clean, because I don't want to give him any places to hide. But it also freaks me out because I get to this like once a week, once every 2 weeks when I get really busy. Sometimes it's a month, and I'm always scared that I'm going to see him when I'm doing this. But if I did see him, no matter where you are in the United States of America, you would hear a scream. So if you ever do, just know that's me. That's part 3 done. Now it's on to the garden. But before I do that, look at this. I planted chocolate mint. And many of you may remember this. Behind me where the garden cage used to be, I had planted chocolate mint along the right side because nothing would grow over there. And I know mint is invasive, but I was like, well, I want it to take over there, so that's fine. So I planted it in the ground. But if you look, all of that is chocolate mint on the complete other side of the yard. So birdies obviously ate the seeds, and it grows over here in my wood piles. This is usually full of wood stocked for the winter for our wood stove, which we have obviously used it all. But I don't mind the mint being in there because rats and mice don't like the smell of mint, so let it grow in between the wood to keep them out. Because my lovely neighbors on that side of me keep their backyard so nasty that they get rats all the time, so we have to have exterminators that come in and feed these. You see this, see that right there? That is a rat bait trap, and we have several of them set around the house, and they come out and refill them just about every couple of weeks, and they're always empty, so hopefully they're doing their job. I haven't seen any rats in my yard since we've gotten this done, but probably because of the treatment. So, all right, anyway, on to part 4. So, you haven't been here in a while. That all used to be a garden cage that I had for about 10 or 12 years. Took it down because it was getting old and had seen its better days. And you also remember I had 4 chickens. My last girl died last year. She was 9. And guess what happened to her? The door had broken. And well, it wasn't completely broken. It was just like coming loose. So we were going to come out here to fix it. And these neighbors that I told you about with the rats, they had a dog. And the dog came over here and went into the coop and killed my final chicken. It was very traumatic. So the other 3 died peacefully of old age, but she died tragically, and it still bothers me to this day. But anyway, this is what's left of my growing, because the soil over there was also tired. No matter how much I amended it every year, you know, you're supposed to let ground sit fallow, but because I only have less than 1/4 of an acre, can't really do that out here. So I let that go fallow, and I bought these raised beds, and I've been growing in these. So I'm gonna pull all the weeds out and plant. I've got peppers and tomatoes and cantaloupe and basil. So I'm going to plant and amend the soil. Well, I'll amend the soil first and then plant. So here we go. I really like this little rake. It's not very tall. I'm 5'2", and as you can see, it goes down to just about my thigh if I hold it level with my head. Yeah, it's too short for like raking leaves. It's not really designed for that, but it's the perfect height for raised beds. So, and it is, I mean, that's why I bought it, because it's a raised bed rake. So I was being lazy because I didn't feel like getting my huge rake out of the garage. But so if you were wondering, this is awfully short for a rake, it's because it's for a raised bed. So as you can see, it's perfect height for a raised bed. So here's another little interesting story. 2 years ago, we got a wood stove. And when we burn in the wintertime, we get a lot of ash. So I've been dumping it in the garden in the winter. And the first year we had it, I said, I'm going to see how my garden does in the spring, because that's a lot of wood ash. But funny enough, for the past 2 years, I put the ashes in there, and then in the spring I just spread them out and then amend the soil with an organic gardening soil. And so far I've had the juiciest tomatoes and cucumbers and peppers and the sweetest tasting. So it'll be interesting to see over time if that changes. But for right now, it's doing pretty good. And ash is good for the garden, you know, just not in huge amounts. But so far, so good. So I'm going to use this once I plant everything, and it says 1 tablespoon per plant. I found this at Tractor Supply. So, which is also where I got the raised bed thyme and these neat little glyphs. So we'll be trying this. And it says to use every 3 to 4 weeks. And it's completely organic. So it has nitrogen, phosphate, soluble potash, which is potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, and it's derived from bone meal, dried poultry manure, potassium, magnesium sulfate, and potassium sulfate. Now, when my chickens were alive, I used to scoop their poop out of the chicken coop and compost it over the winter. And sometimes I would just come out here in the winter and just throw it into the soil and work it in, so it would compost all winter long. Got great results from that. But my chickens are no longer here. So when I saw this, and it has that smell, that stinky smell, that's when you know it's good stuff. I do not really have a plan for the plants. I'm probably not gonna be able to see it. All right. I always just go with the whim. So I have old German. It's an heirloom tomato. I have sweet 100s because I love cherry tomatoes. I have a 4-pack of Brandywines, another tomato I like to grow. A pineapple tomato it's like reddish and yellow, very sweet, so good. Another wild cherry variety, Matt's Wild Cherry. Rutgers tomatoes, and I'm from Jersey. Rutgers University, my dad's alma mater. Woohoo! And that's all the tomatoes. And it's probably too many. And then something has been eating on my peppers. I've got jalapenos because my daughter likes jalapenos. I got a bunch of basil, which something has also been eating on that. I got California Wonder sweet green peppers. Cucumbers, because my son loves pickles, so I always make him bread and butter pickles. I've got cantaloupes. These are called sugar cubes. These are not going to go in the raised beds. I'm going to figure out somewhere to put these in the yard. And then I've got some sage. Some parsley. I honestly don't know what this is. When I picked it up, I was in a rush. I thought it was rosemary, but I don't think it is because it says it's a flowering plant. So I don't know. But I'm going to plant it somewhere. And I've got eggplant for my mommy because she loves eggplant. She's Italian and she loves to grow eggplants. I have the other one was a cantaloupe. I also have honeydew, as my husband loves honeydew and cantaloupe. And I have a red beauty. Now the thing with these peppers, they're always red and green, right? But you know that if you leave a green pepper on the vine long enough, it will go to red and then to orange and then to yellow. So it's just how long you leave it on the plant, the sweeter it gets. There are gardeners who will argue with this and say, no, that's not true. But I have done it with several different varieties of sweet peppers. And if you leave them on the plant long enough, they will turn colors and they will be sweeter the longer you leave them on the plant. So this is kind of a misnomer. So and that's another cucumber. So we're gonna get ready to plant. I do tomatoes in both beds, and they get so big, and I always stake them so that I can keep them growing up, because tomatoes will sprawl if you don't stake them or cage them. And then if you didn't know, they have these little fine hairs all along their stems, and if that comes in contact with the soil, they will become roots. So I don't really want that to happen, and I always cut off the lower branches, because that way when I water them, there's always bacteria in your soil, good and bad, and you don't want it to do this, where it's, you know, you'll get like fungus and stuff like that. So I always try to keep the lower branches cut off, and that also gives room for the basil, because if you plant basil with tomatoes, they go together on a dish. They also go well together in the garden. And I just recently learned in a class that I took that basil actually makes tomato plants taste more tomatoey, like it enhances the flavor. I never realized that before, but it's probably true, because I always have the most delicious tasting tomatoes, and I have always planted basil with my tomatoes. So I think what I'm going to do is plant tomatoes along the outer edges of the raised beds, and then put my basil in between them, and then put my cukes on those trellises that I have right there. So let's see how it goes. Now here's the other trick with tomatoes. You've heard me say this before. Always plant them deep, because all of that will become roots, and it'll make the plant really strong. Now, Sweet 100 is already starting to get flowers, but you don't want flowers on this early. And as much as I hate to do it, I always pinch them off, because I want the plants to get a little bit taller before they start putting on setting fruit. Always good to have a good pair of garden shears, because I always cut off these bottom stems. Before I plant, because a lot of times they're yellow, and also because, as I said, I want the plant to grow tall, so I always cut off those stems, and that gives me space at the bottom to keep air circulating through the plants, to try and prevent them getting fungus and all those tomato diseases as much as possible. Always a good idea too, just kind of break that root system up, especially if they're really root bound. If you see a thick band of white roots, they're really root bound, so you need to tease them. Regardless, I always do it to let the plant know you're being planted, so you can spread your roots. You notice that I try not to step in the soil too much. That's because I don't want my soil to be compacted. The Rutgers. I have one brandywine plant left. I don't know if I'm going to use it or not. Doesn't look too great. I always try to pick the best plants out of the pack. I always try to look for the best cell packs with the best looking plants, and then I pick the best out of those once I buy them. Tomatoes are done. Now it's time for the basil. That's actually 4 plants. You can see the 4 stems in there. If these were younger, I would break them apart. You can try and break them apart and plant them separately, but the roots are so entangled that might traumatize the plant. So what I'm gonna do is pick the strongest stalk and cut the rest off and just plant it. Okay, so my camera stopped because my phone battery died on me right when I was planting, but this is the end result. So I've got jalapeno peppers in the front here, an eggplant there. Those are my Rutgers tomatoes along the back there. Another, that's the old German heirloom tomato there. 2 cucumber plants there. Red pepper here. Green peppers here. Sweet 100 tomatoes here and here. And then that is my pineapple tomato there. Got basil, parsley, sage. And those are my brandywines, and then basil. And then I still haven't planted these. I planted this cantaloupe here, and I'm hoping it'll run that way and serve as like a mulch, a living mulch. And I have a couple more cantaloupes and a honeydew here, and whatever this is. And way over there, I decided to put one of my honeydew melons over here because I used to grow stuff over here all the time. So something picked up my sign and moved it. So I have that there. That's the honeydew. So yeah, so all done with all the yard work that I'm going to do for today anyway. Did everything I said I was going to do. So that's it, y'all. Until next time, garden gals and guys, happy gardening.